There are 4 elemental skills that we can imbue our weapon attacks with to create powerful synergies in Crimson Desert. The second one that is available to us is Frost Mantle. Unlocking it requires completion of several Abyss puzzles, and there are a few extra tricks to get the most out of it once we do unlock it. All of that will be covered in this guide, and as usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. I'm not sure if there is any prerequisite to unlocking Frost Mantle, at least in terms of main quest completion. However, we will need to defeat a difficult boss to access the Abyss puzzles that unlock it. Because of that, I recommend completing the main quest line up through the end of Chapter 4 before attempting to get it. Our first destination will be the Spire of Ringing Truth, which is located a fair distance north of Calphade up in the mountains. Once at the Spire, we will need to find a way down to the basement. This paradoxically requires us to first ascend to the top of it. We can do that however we see fit, whether by climbing or some combination of force palm jumping. Upon reaching the top of the spire, we'll need to break the wooden beam supporting the large bell. I would guess that a heavy attack or force palm could do the trick. However, I found a charge shot from the bow to be the most convenient, and I bet explosive arrows would also work. After the bell crashes into the basement, we can dive down ourselves and approach the Abyss Gate there to initiate a boss battle with Priscus the Ancient. This boss can be fairly frustrating, as he will spend most of the fight out of melee range, teleporting around and shooting projectiles at us. A decently upgraded bow can be used to chip away at his health, but ultimately be ready to deal maximum damage when he makes the mistake of coming within melee range. Defeating Priscus will get us several neat rewards. More importantly, at least for our purposes, it will grant us access to the first of 3 Abyss Islands that we must complete to unlock Frost Mantle, Either Rest. The first thing to do at Either Rest is to make use of the fans and glide up to the central structure. We can then find a device around the top of the cage to use our Axiom Force on, and spin the outer gate until we are able to enter the cage, and then ride up another air current. In the next room, we can use Nature's Grasp on the stone structure with a circular opening to lift it up, then use Axiom Force on the device that gets revealed. Spinning this inner structure will reveal an opening for us to exit out of. We'll then need to glide up several smaller air currents using Axiom Force to grab an Abyss core along the way. This core can be slotted into its receptacle at the top of this section to restore power to the final device for Either Rest. We can then jump up and glide along a horizontal current to reach that final device, activation of which will restore the Abyss in Either Rest. Also, a small tip, if we hold left trigger while climbing a wall, we can anchor ourselves to it and resist the pushing effect that normally happens when we use Force Palm against it. With the puzzle completed, we can claim our Abyss artifact and proceed to the next island, Frostbitten Paradise. Now, I'm not sure if we need to use this fan boat device to cross the final gap on the way to that island, but this is a good learning point for a skill that may be important in other puzzles called Nature's Snare. We unlock it by upgrading both Keen Senses to level 3 and Focus to level 2, then by spending one more Abyss artifact on the Nature's Snare skill. To use it, enter Focus and then look around in a circular motion to start generating a vortex. This vortex will activate the fan on the device, pushing us across the divide to our destination. Frostbitten Paradise is definitely the trickiest Abyss Island of the three, and it took me a while to figure out on my first time through. Also, I recommend saving at the start of every Abyss Island just in case things get bugged out. The main gimmick is to use these laser cubes to activate various receptacles in a particular order, all of which will culminate in the puzzle's completion. The first one is simple, just place the laser cube down so it hits the receptacle, opening the way forward. We can then stand on a button in the next room to open a way down below. This is where things start to get tricky. We'll start by placing the rectangle battery in its socket using force palm to plug it in. Next, we'll need to take the laser cube here and place it so it activates the other available receptacle. We then need to go partway across a gap and into the area with two new laser receptacles sitting side by side, along with another laser cube. The first thing we need to do is grab the laser cube here and place it on a conveyor belt facing the wall. Moving the nearby Abyss core over to its device will then activate the conveyor belt, sliding the laser cube into place to activate a third and otherwise inaccessible receptacle. This will open a new force field back into the previous room where the other laser cube is. We can then grab that laser cube and bring it back into the room with the conveyor belt. We'll then need to remove the Abyss core from its device to move the conveyor belt back in the other direction so we can retrieve the second laser cube. With both laser cubes, we can then activate both of the receptacles sitting side by side, disabling the force field that was blocking our path into a third room. A new rectangle battery is sitting in that room and we'll need to grab it, then perform several of the same steps we just performed, but this time in reverse. Our ultimate goal is to bring both the rectangle battery and one of the laser cubes back into the first room that we entered down here. With that done, we then need to position the laser cube in the first room so that it's back to activating that initial receptacle, the one closest to the gap. Crouching under the laser, we'll then grab the rectangle battery with axiom force and ride across the gap on the moving platform to reach the final room down here. There's a socket on the floor in that final room where we can plug in our rectangle battery, activating both a teleporter and the final device for this island. Upon activating the final device with a ground force palm, we will restore the Abyss for Frostbitten Paradise. We can then grab the Abyss artifact and proceed along a series of air currents to the final island, at least for our purposes of unlocking Frost Mantle, which is the Path of Trials. The Path of Trials is thankfully relatively quick to complete. I might not have done it in exactly the intended way, but it was quick. We'll first need to make our way up to a lone socket near the top of the island, and I did this mostly through force palm jumping and gliding. The square panel battery that needs to go into the socket is frozen and must be thawed before it can be inserted. I believe there is a pool of lava somewhere around here that can be utilized. For my part though, I just used one of the nearby lanterns to light an arrow on fire, then used charge shot with that flaming arrow on the square panel battery. That seemed to do the trick and melt away the ice. All that's left to do is to activate the final device to restore the abyss for the Path of Trials. I believe that this is what will unlock the Frost Mantle Skill. Before explaining how to use that skill and imbue offensive moves with the Frost element, let's collect our final Abyss artifact here and move to the next Abyss Island where we can unlock a new fast travel point. The next island, Sanctorum of Darkness, is the first of several Abyss Islands that must be completed to unlock the Flame Strike skill. I'll be covering those in a separate guide, which you can find over on my channel. For now, let's talk about Frost Mantle, as it's one of my favorite elemental skills in Crimson Desert. Completing the Path of Trials unlocked it, and we can use it by clicking right trigger and X simultaneously on an Xbox controller. I'm not sure about inputs on other forms of game control. Much more useful, however, is when we imbue other offensive skills with Frost through the Imbue Element skill, which we must actually invest Abyss artifacts into if we want to unlock. I'll demonstrate with the first level, which allows us to imbue the turning slash attack with an element of our choice. To do it, we need to hold down right on the D-pad, then select the Frost element. We can then begin the windup of a normal turning slash attack by holding both right trigger and right bumper at the same time, and finally imbue it with our selected element Frost by pressing down on the left trigger. We can then release all three buttons at once to perform an imbued turning slash attack. It's quite the combo to practice performing correctly, but doing so brings great reward. This powerful imbued attack can freeze enemies in their tracks, allowing them to be shattered into tiny pieces by lethal damage. Also, if we have armor equipped with an Abyss gear that augments our Frost imbued attacks, it will add additional effects. I had the example of lightning orbs when it came to that element, but unfortunately do not have any such Abyss gears for Frost, at least not yet. If you have any questions on what was covered in this guide, you can reach out to me in the comments where I'll do my best to help. I'll have guides on how to unlock the other 3 elemental skills over on my channel, so you can go there to find them, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat, her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day. If you're here today, have a great Friday, and a great weekend. And as always, thanks for watching.